Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 487, and today we're doing Battle in a Ruthless Rumble. And so, if you don't want to hear us talk about best of three, as we always say at the beginning of our videos, if you want to skip ahead to the gameplay, today we're going to be playing Janna Teemo Champion Strength, we're going to be playing Jax Ornn, and we're going to be playing Aatrox Kayn. If you're looking for a more in-depth guide on any of these deck lists, you can just scroll backwards through the channel. We've covered off on Janna Champion Strength multiple times. Jax Ornn is probably just our most played deck at this point. It's probably surpassed Scouts up to here. And then Aatrox Kayn, I don't think I've covered off on. I'm a little bit short in time as far as this season goes, so I didn't really get to hit all of the highlights, but we'll try to cover off on it a little bit more along the way. And so, as we enter this best of three season, thinking back to the last season, the kind of big question every lineup had to ask itself is, what do we do about Janna? Do we bring Janna? Do we play against Janna? Do we ban Janna? That was the highlight to every single lineup throughout the course of the event. And we took the course of just banning Janna. That left you in the spot to where you were probably going to have to tackle a lot of the Warden of the Tribe's decks, which we designed our lineup to do. My kind of thought process with that is playing against Janna is kind of obnoxious. Even if you think you have a good matchup with all of your Warden of the Tribes decks, I felt like that was a little bit of statistical anomaly, if you will, as it's much easier to just kind of come in and pick up the Warden of the Tribes deck and start beating up on Janna than it was the other way around. And so I didn't want to play against a bunch of Janna. I felt like the Warden of the Tribes deck was a little bit easier to target in terms of what your deck lists could do. And then B, I felt like it was very likely that you would play against lineups that had multiple Warden of the Tribes decks in it. And while the Demacia and Shurima versions were better than just everything else, it was very easy to get kind of a competent triple Warden of the Tribes lineup. I felt like that was something that we were going to have to run across 2 or 3, maybe even 4 times across the course of the event. And I wanted to be kind of ready for that, because you can't just ban it all away. You have to play against the Warden in some way, shape, or form. And so as we enter this new balance patch best of 3 era season, if you will. I think I got a cat got a cat getting ready to jump on me. We got to stop. I was about to catch some claws to the legs. Come on, kitty. People want to hear about this more than best of 3 anyways. Here she is. Here she is. She says, "What up, internet?" It's Pepper. I always love it when I get picked up like this. But no, nonetheless, the Warden of the Tribes has kind of shifted out of the meta. Janna did not get nerfed nearly as much as I felt like she needed to. And in kind of the space we've seen in terms of the decks that are supposed to beat Janna, they've turned up as these kind of mid-rangey Freylord numbers like Darius, Gnar. And so the way I kind of wanted to start out with this format, I feel like it's very safe to just come in and look to ban Janna. That's our kind of goal and idea with this lineup. And then the kind of next piece of the puzzle is, what decks do we want to be good against? And typically what you see in this style of format, especially as we run through these kind of highly competitive Ruthless Rumbles, is that Heimerdinger Jayce tends to just be the third deck of choice. Now, I know Heimerdinger Jayce took a ton of nerfs across this past patch, but Heimerdinger Jayce is looking pretty juicy with how this meta is shaping up, just having a ton of mid-range decks everywhere, and that's the kind of thing that Heimerdinger Jayce typically just preys on. And so that's the kind of idea with bringing Aatrox Kayn as our third deck. It kind of holds up fine against all of the mid-rangey decks of the format. If you're doing slow stuff, it can still combat that slow stuff with all of the Darken equipment, and it still has a lot of the big kind of bangers of the format in terms of being able to play shit like Utter Devastation against the mid-rangey decks, and having some flexibility as we plan on playing those and not playing against Janna. And so that's the idea. Hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit more in depth as we get a little bit more in tune with Ruthless Rumbles. I feel like this is a good starting point, though. And so before we talk about the individual decks, I will say I've decided with these best of 3 videos, I'm just going to stop at 3 matches. And so if we're at the start and we go 0-2, then fine. Otherwise, we'll just play 3. We're in kind of the same spot here. We can either get 2 or 3 matches here at the end of the Rumble. But I kind of found as you had to play like 5 and 6 matches, that kind of turns into 12 to 15 games. And at 10 minutes a game, it's like 2-3 hours of video. And while I don't mind putting that much content forth, I don't think that's what the world is really out here seeking and looking for. And so I try to keep these things at about an hour. That gets us 2 or 3 matches. And so that's why we are at this point in time. And so to bring up the deck list, Teemo Janna, again, very similar to what we brought forth into the Open, has some edits based on what the other players did a little bit stronger than us in the Open. It was kind of interesting seeing AJ the Pro win the Open. He played the Teemo Janna champion strength deck. He played Jax Ornn, and then he brought Warden of the Tribes, where we brought Ashe LeBlanc. But it gave me a little bit of validation in that our ideas were probably pretty good in what we were doing. We're just not as good as AJ the Pro. And so it was kind of interesting to see that pop up. But the list here, very similar to what we brought to the Open. The additions here that we didn't play would be things like Piltover and Castaway. And other than that, things are pretty similar. This is a very stock Janna Teemo champion strength deck list. Up next with Jax Ornn, this is again another fairly standard kind of number. It has the 6 unit boosters with the Omen Hawks and the Weaponsmith's Apprentice. Favored Artisan taking up that mid-game spot for the additional forges, and then at the top end we have the Wild Claw's Ferocity to help boost an equipped unit, and then the Buried in Ice is kind of a general catch-all, be good against mid-rangey decks kind of thing. The main difference that we would have here, as opposed to what we brought to the Open, as we were playing a lot more Entrancing Lures, and we didn't play the Wild Claw's Ferocities, and so just something to kind of take note of there. But again, a fairly similar Jax Ornn list. Last but not least, with Aatrox Kayn, I was quite interested in Aatrox Kayn. Like I had this segment of time to where I was trying to work with Blue Gwen in this format, the Gwen Sejuani style of deck, and I try and put Omen Hawk Glacial Saurion into literally every single deck, right? And so, in looking at the units that you could play in Blue Gwen, I did come across the Keeper of the Box, and Keeper of the Box with Bone Club is quite good and strong. And so, like, I did that before I picked up Aatrox Kayn. I was quite happy with the things that Keeper of the Box could do. And so I felt like this was a nice transition. I wasn't super happy with Blue Gwen. It's not a deck I want to take to the Open. And so this was a nice kind of pivot over to Aatrox Kayn. But this list here in particular, this is the one that Kawako was doing a bunch of leveling with. I do like the very limited package of equipment in this with just the Bloodletters, Harp, and Spear. These are the highest quality ones, and we aren't playing the crappy ones. And it's just not too much trouble to actually pick up Aatrox when you need to, and so I feel like not playing the bad ones works out quite strong here. Otherwise, we are playing the singular copy of Utter Devastation. This is a nice mid-rangey game booster. You can respond to your opponent's champion strengths with the Utter Devastation and hopefully not die. God, this cat is so dumb. She was getting her claws stuck in my chest. I'm sorry. But that's the only kind of crazy notes here as far as this deck go. It has the tight equipment package along with the Utter Devastation. And so that's it. That's the decks we're playing with today. I'm pretty sure the pay-to-win price was already paid up on this. When we're coming forth with Jax Ornn and we're playing with Champion Strength, Janna, Teemo, just decks we played a ton of last season, I think everything's kind of covered off there. And so we'll just say that we're okay. We'll say that we're good, you know. Hopefully, this is the point to where we'll just drop off and O2 the remainder of the Ruthless Rumbles because we didn't come out and turn something premium, but I'll try to fix it for the next one, you know. Riot's gotten enough of my dollars this week. They'll have to hold back on that $1 until tomorrow. Ooh, gotta get this cat off of me. It's a recipe for disaster what's happening with her. But man, as I was on my hiatus, I posted a picture of one of the other kitties. They've got 3 kitties. 2 of them make somewhat regular appearances in the videos. That was Pepper. Her son Bernard turns up on occasion. He's the all black one. He's kind of fat and stuff, but he's very jolly, if you will. But the last kitty, the last one, Tyrone, that's my oldest cat. She doesn't like to hang out while I make videos, and she has a serious case of resting bitch face. And I got a picture of her over the hiatus just looking fucking mad. I posted that one up on Twitter, and so if you're looking for the last cat, she's gonna be up there. But as far as this lineup goes, again, we're fine to play against Heimerdinger Jayce. See that one pop up. That makes us feel a little bit okay. With these matchups, I've been banning out Ashe LeBlanc. It's one of those spots to where the champion strength deck is kind of fine against it. Aatrox, Kayn, and Jax Ornn are not very good against Ashe. And I still don't have a total amount of respect for Nidalee. It's one of those decks that feels like it just kind of loses to itself a lot. And so I feel kind of okay just going ahead and taking it out of the mix. And so let's go ahead and get things kicked off with Janna. I always feel good leaning off with the Janna deck. We'll see how this goes. You don't get to see deck lists in this, right? I didn't click on anything. I think it's still closed deck list in the Ruthless Rumbles. All right, what do we got? We got a nice acorn into Janna start. I'm going to go ahead and cycle away the second acorn. It's a little bit much. We need some more early game action in our hand. I don't want to just be counting on those 2 acorns, especially if we hit one of these awkward mulligans to where we just don't have any other cards we can play. And so, see how it goes. Get on board, my friend. Make our spells cheaper. Do the work we need you to do. Hey, champion strength turning up. I'm going to add the Broadwing. It's probably not going to get a good attack here. If he plays any ambush, we probably don't want to attack into it. Oh, cool. It's Conchologist. Because I don't really want to be losing the Broadwings in this combat. It kind of sucks to just trade it with an all-terrain trooper, but with him dropping Conchologist, we definitely feel good about attacking. But, I mean, this is certainly one of these spots to where we could put it on board. If opponent does something we don't want to see, if they play an ambush, we can still just attack with Acorn. But in the event something like this happens to where he just gets a bunch of bad units on board, we're a little bit more free to come in and attack. Getting all the acorns up and running. I'm gonna play this champion strength for like 2 mana. One can dream. One can dream. Alright, in with the corns. I would expect like one of these to probably die. If he has a quicksand, that's gonna be kind of suck for us, but I wouldn't be surprised to end up just losing 1 here. Losing 0 feels pretty good. Trixie Tentacles, does that hit our Janna? Is that what this one just hit? Your opponent discards their lowest cost card and it just happens to be Janna? Oh, snap. Okay. I guess if that's how it's gonna be. We could have played Eye of the Storm to try and pick up something a little bit cheaper, but I just don't think I'm super happy about that. Now with how this board looks, do we actually want to just champion strength here? We can come in for 10. That's a little aggressive. That's a little aggressive.
Fresh start. Just looking for a sign.
All right. I feel better about that now. We got a little bit of cycle. We'll still carry a 2-bank into the next turn. Got a free dude out of it. It's not that bad. We definitely don't want to overbank 3 mana on that turn. And so that felt like a bit of a win. And he's still just not doing anything, right? There's not too much to worry about on this turn. Now that he plays Gnar, we can champion strength. We don't have to worry about the dumb stuff, right? the Rite of Negations and the Avenging Vestayas we don't have to worry about. And so while this isn't going to be a killing blow, this is going to be a pretty big hindrance into what the opponent's trying to do. Just taking all of this damage in this space, not blocking Gnar. It's a very easy space for the opponent to have Prowl. And so I don't want to be losing without getting the attack back. And so now if he prowls onto Gnar and kills our Broadwing, that's kind of fine. But I didn't want him getting that quick attack in. The damage from him isn't that super important. Why does it say we're only dealing 5 damage? Now it's back to 10. That was weird. Okay. Saw that right. I was looking at the kind of Oracle Eye thing over to the left. It's like we had the 10 damage from the acorns, but it said we were only dealing 5, and then the wallet came down. So I'm not certain if there was a visual thing there or what, but that was a little weird.
Guess we're doing this the ugly way.
Alright, well, let's get in for some damage. We're very close to the lethal at this point. We can, he say he's going to pokey stick an Acorn. We can Eye of the Storm the other one. Then we just need to come in for 4 damage, which we technically have from these Divine Whirlwinds. See how that goes. Howling Gales turn up. An extra Piltover Castaway. Okay. I don't want to get too crazy casting the spells here. If he's got a Rite of Negation to counterspell both Divine Whirlwinds, that kind of sucks, you know? So I don't quite want to see that. Now we're in the clear. He can still play a 1 damage Pytos and take down the Acorn, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. We still have a pretty good board here, even if he has it. All right. Victory unlocked. GG, well played. On to the next battle. All right, so Aatrox Kayn. I don't think this one has really been on the radar since Worlds, right? I feel like Worlds was where we saw a ton of Aatrox Vayne, the Demacia Aatrox deck, and then Aatrox Kayn, what we're here playing today. And then they decided to finally come in and nerf out all of the cultists, and then they dropped some nerfs to the World Ender, and it didn't completely remove the decks, right? Kayn got fairly hurt for a while. We haven't seen Kayn since that event, but Aatrox is a very common third deck in best of 3, and so props to him. Props to him, my bro. So what do we got here? I'd love to find another equipment. Darkened Bloodletters is the perfect one. It's so strong in terms of getting our cultists on board. This has been kind of the downside to why I wasn't super happy in terms of what we want here. I don't want to pick Kayn. Like, we're just going to draw Kayn as soon as we hit another equipment. Furious Wielder is not super important in this match, and I don't think we need momentous choices at this point. I think we just have to skip. But no, this is the Darkened Bloodletters is what made me really, kind of feel like you have to play Shurima in with Kayn. Whenever the unit dies and you get the Darkened Thrall and it's a cultist, does so much in terms of activating the abilities. The other big thing is I was talking about using the what's your name, Keeper of the Box with Bone Club, and the thing that you do get out of this deck, with even though you don't get Bone Club, is the Darkened Harp. The Darkened Harp still does some pretty amazing work in terms of gaining a shitload of health off of that unit, right? Typically, like 1 quick attack from the Darkened Harp to gain 4, and then blocking the next turn to gain another 4. It's typically just enough to get the job done. All right, and then do we want to just take the 6 from the Scrap Traption? Like, I kind of like momentous choicing the Bakai to give it 3 health so that we can... Oh, he's not even brash anymore. What the fuck am I talking about? I forgot about these changes to Heimerdinger Jayce. Dude's not even brash. Okay, I'm on board with that. What a change to our friend, man. I was so ready to just swap him out. Not the case whatsoever. This is going to be a fantastic Expanse's protection. Let's see how it goes. You would ideally be counterspelling stuff like Vengeance, but if it's successful here, we just do a shitload of damage. And this is one of these spots to where we can like re-protect the unit with Momentous Choice if we want. I'm trying to be a little bit more mana effective because we do have the Ranger Defector. The Ranger Defector is going to draw Kayn, and so we have a lot of mana to be spending over these next few turns. and it's a little bit easier to keep your mana locked up with this singular momentous choice. So, but we were well protected. You would ideally be counterspelling stuff like Vengeance is there. Didn't quite need to do it in this space. That's a very sus attack, as the kids are saying, you know. Very, very sus. Many susses coming out of that attack. Lots of small cheap burn spells coming through, I would assume. But good stuff happening here, right? The Defector is a must block. So that always feels kind of nice. We have him very well protected in hand. As it stands right now, we don't need to play Kame. We can just ace him with these spells and stuff that we have in hand. So do we want to add? We're actually 1 point short. Let's go for the lethal.
The killer remains. May we bleed forever. Be still.
So if he has like a Mystic Shot or something onto the Bakai, we're going to fail. But I feel like even if we don't end the game that turn, that's kind of one of those spots to where they have to do a ton of work to get their to get their board like back on track. And so it feels pretty safe either way. All right, market a W. Move on. And so I must say, I went on a, I don't know if tirade's the right word. I went on a big rant in the previous video about shredded cheese. I hope you all followed along. You should scroll back if you didn't catch it and really learn about the dum-dums that really put forth and suggest that you need to shred cheese. And so here's how my day went yesterday. I went and I recorded that video. We talked about the shredded cheese and people that call movie films and people that play Ionia and stuff, how they all, not to say that they're bad people, but I probably don't want to spend any time with them. And so what ended up happening yesterday, it was my day to fix dinner. And so the way we do it in the FTP Bust household is I fix dinner on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. The wife fixes dinner on the other ones. What is that? Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. And so it was my dinner day. It's going down there to start prepping the dinner. And what do I see? What did I incorporate into the meal that I was about to fix? A fucking block of cheese that needed to be shredded. I was so mad. I was so mad that I just went through that. Like, I could remember being at the store and I was like, all right, well, normally I would just buy some regular shredded cheese, but the dumbass recipe called for, specifically it wanted shredded sharp white cheddar cheese. And I was like, well, fuck, I can't break from the recipe, right? I talk a load of trash to my wife because she won't follow a recipe. She goes rogue on literally every single one. And I won't do it. I just do the recipe as is. I figure, you don't go to the doctor and say, doctor, you're doing your job poorly. You don't know anything about medicine. I know better than you because I did a Google search, right? It's kind of the same thing. Whoever's putting out these recipe blogs and making their way up to the top of the list on the old Google search has a little bit of, pedigree in terms of them knowing what they're talking about. So I don't go and start fucking changing their recipes. I'll follow it as is. The recipe said you need a block of sharp white cheddar cheese. You couldn't find that in the pre-shredded stuff, and so I had to just sit there and shred it again. I was so mad. 2 days in a row of shredding cheese, and I guess you're just kind of stuck in this space. Just is what it is. But I was so I don't know how I make it through life sometimes. My life is so hard to sit around, make all these YouTube videos, and then have to go shred cheese afterwards. It's fucking miserable, let me tell you. The other thing I was thinking about in terms of that rant is when I was in college, I worked in a movie theater, and what basically happened was like there was only like the one movie theater in town, and then another newer movie theater moved in. And everybody just went to the new theater because nobody wanted to go to the old shitty one. And so what ended up happening is they turned it into like the dollar theater. So the new movies would come out at the big fancy theater for like the first 3 weeks of the run, whatever. And then when they would kick it out of that movie, it would go to our theater to where you could come and watch it for $1. And there was this like movie critic that would turn up. We kind of knew who he was because when you were getting all the first run movies, he would always be there. But when you're, doing a 7 o'clock show of a new movie and 1,500 people show up, like the guy gets kind of lost in the weeds. You don't really notice like one random dude. But when we switched to being the dollar theater, we were a very successful business. We probably had like 6 or 7 people that would show up to any given showing. And whenever that dude would show up, he was always a talker. He was apparently a movie critic. The thing that I didn't understand is if you're a movie critic, why are you doing like second run movies? Why aren't you reviewing the movie as soon as it comes out? He was apparently, I don't know, the second run critic that doing the deep cuts 3 weeks later. Fast and the Furious comes out, you gotta wait 3 weeks before you write the review and post it in your mailbox or whatever the fuck was happening here. But anyways, this guy would come in. This is going to be a fairly easy ban. We'll just ban out Viego. But this guy would come in, and he referred to every movie as a film. He was like, what film am I going to watch today? Do you have the little paper that talks about the film? And like, film. Just pissed me off so much, The conversation I want to have with you is, welcome to the movie theater. What can I do for you today? And you say, 2 tickets, Fast and the Furious, done. I don't want you to come up and be like, oh, what's your most popular film this week? And it's like, well, let me tell you. We had 19 people show up yesterday. Nothing. The answer is nothing. What is popular is nothing. Now, what is popular amongst those 19 people? I don't know, probably Fast and the Furious, but it was just obnoxious having that guy come in. What was the films? Was this highly rated? I don't know, dude. You're apparently the movie critic. You're the one doing the ratings. You tell me. I just want to be moderately sober at my college job here. Maybe study a little bit and get through the day. I bet you all been sitting around talking about films. You watched an amazing film, Mission Impossible 4: Ghost Protocol. It's probably what you've been posting all up and down your Facebook feed. All right, I gotta get that out of my head. Let's move forward here. Let's soldier on. I think we need to kind of build up a little bit here against Shyvana, Aurelion, Soul. We can take the damage from the soldier. We're never going to have a good combat there, but let's go ahead and drop in Jax. We don't have like a great mechanism for forging Jax at this point, and I want him to be protected, and so I feel like we can just play him here and then get this attack in next turn with a counter-strike. Hopefully we don't have to counter-strike, but if we need it, we got it. And then we can start building up our other friends here. Sure.
You're gonna want to watch this.
All right. Well attacked, Jax. Well attacked. Right, hopefully we got enough stats to deal with this nonsense. Favorite Artisans, it's kind of a tough angle to decide on here. Like, I'm glad our Omen Hawks both landed on the good improvise units. How do we approach this now? Probably just have to combat cook. Any 2-power equipment will let us get into a combat with this this dragon. Fixing 5,000 is fine.
Chef on the team now. What's for dinner?
Oh, I spilled tonight's stew in our last battle.
100%.
Too much salt.
Easiest block 2023. Get that guy out of here.
No dessert? No.
Alright, so now are we just going to open? Like, it's kind of tough. I don't like being in this spot to where we don't have any interactivity, right? And so I want to just basically spend all of our mana this turn, and then if we draw a combat trick next turn, we'll spend all of our mana there. But, like, it's just like a lot of room for failure here. If we start playing cards and then opponent plays cards and we don't have any other actions, right? It's very easy for us on this turn to say, play the Glacial Saurion that I want to play, and then opponent's like, cool, here's a 6/6. You know, we can't really do anything about that. So that feels like a reasonable open. Ornn turning up to the party is going to give us a lot of options 2 turns from now. See how this goes. I'm kind of planning on just doing Artisan this turn, Artisan this turn, and then stopping. And then next turn we'll get the big equipments onto Ornn. Jax is about to fall here, though. There's nothing we can do about that. So the angle I'm looking to take, you know, he's gonna win against Jax fine. This dragon will just take the damage. Not too worried about that. And then we can look to where are you at? Fix him 5,000 and put onto the Saurion. Gotta stop there. Now on this next turn we'll play Ornn and copy the big equipment. Ooh, Sky Splitter. Nice. Oh fuck, did I mess up our mana? Shit. Well, hopefully that's okay. I was thinking in my head that we had one extra mana here, so we would have been safe to get the Sky Splitter going. This is a little scary, but with him adding Shyvana, I don't think we really care. I think it's going to turn out to be okay. His blocks just have to suck here, right? Nice. So there is, you know, potential rooms for failure. If he's got the thing that gives all of your dragons +1/+1 and overwhelm, he can get some pretty scary hooks out of this Wounded White Flame, right? He can Wounded White Flame into the Omen Hawk and be pretty close to the lethal. You know, that's the only card I'm particularly worried about here, though. If he comes in with, say, like a White Flame hook into Ornn and gets a kill on Ornn or something, fine. I think as long as we don't die, we're going to be completely okay. We don't die to this stuff, right? Protective Broodfather. Maybe get a attacking dragon. Alright, I'll add the blocker just in case. He's tapped out, so we don't have to worry too much here. And then we can actually backfill this board a little bit. Interesting. So, like, as he kills off these units, we should have the space to get, you know, an innovative blacksmith on board and a favored artisan. Getting those little bits of damage in can be quite useful in terms of... That's Shyvana just turned up. But the extra points of damage can be useful when we say attack with Ornn, and then he blocks with the Broodfather, and then we get to overwhelm that last couple points of damage.
Another nail for hammer.
Or we're going to add a Saurion after this. So what are we going to have? Ornn, Saurion, Saurion number 2. I think this is okay. Let's block with the Omen Hawk. Oh no, we didn't have anything to draw a card with. Unfortunate for you, but I think that'll still turn out to be okay. It's a it's a space to where, you know, if we go into the next turn, we're probably dead anyways.
Somebody help. Here comes my molten friend.
Here comes my molten friend, though. Right? You can bring a Hush, but you still got a block. No, I guess you don't have to block that guy. Just dealing his 1 point of damage. I was thinking with the Hush, he was just gonna lose overwhelm like a normal guy. That's okay. We still got the lethal there, but you can see we probably should have planned that out a little bit better. But you can kind of see there at the very end what I was trying to kind of game plan towards, right? As to where, you know, our overwhelm units, our main ones, probably aren't going to deal enough damage to get the lethal. He has some fairly meaty blockers on board, but we do have, you know, some ancillary, some auxiliary units that we can put on the board to hopefully get in that 2 or 3 points of damage, and then we can overwhelm another 2 or 3 points of damage, and that's exactly what we had happen there. All right, reasonable enough start. I don't think this matchup is going to be spectacular for us. It's one to where, you know, if we can get Aatrox up and running, it's probably fine. Utter Devastation seems like nonsense here. Let's go ahead and snatch that up since we only have one copy. I think we're going to be getting to turn 8 this game, but their units are so big. Like, we don't want to be in the spots to where we have to block. So I worry about that just a little bit.
A cut above the rest.
I don't really want Aatrox. I'm also just kind of interested in the Unforgiven Cold. Just it's like the interactivity feels fairly important to be picking up here. Because I guess he is playing Aurelion Soul. I'm trying to think. It's like these cards don't matter that much, right? But he does have that late game answer in Aurelion Soul. But Aurelion Soul does look kind of silly when he's out here trying to face down. When he's out here trying to face down like 3 Darken. So I know that we don't have the full package of Darken here, but we do have some answers to him. It's Wounded White Flame, but it doesn't have Challenger. Weird. Wonder what he put the Challenger onto.
Irresistible power, inevitable death. Devotion through battle.
So there's 2 things here, right? There's probably some kind of combat trick involved, and so I don't want to get involved with the Wounded White Flame. We'll just keep in mind that he's probably got something. And then I kind of want to keep a unit on board for Kayn to challenge, and so I'm going to leave this Laurent Duelist around as well. And then we can look into this next turn to just kind of play it safe in the sense that if we take Kayn and hook the Duelist, we attack with the Keeper of the Box and the Shadowblade Fanatic. He blocks with the White Flame and plays a spell. Like, fine. It's not like a huge investment. And then what you typically run into with the dragons here is if he's going to have to play a bunch of combat tricks, like if he really wants to try and take down Kayn in this combat, he's probably not going to be able to play any units. So that feels pretty safe as well. I'll just pass. You can you can have that mana back, my friend. You can have that mana. So he does still have the Challenger in hand. Let's just play the Fanatic. I mean, he's got to add like a good unit eventually, right? And then we can still Shadow Step. It's at some point, one day, a good unit will hit the board. There he goes, spending that mana. There he goes. It's been spent. It's been added. Now it's like if we take a 3-bank into the next turn, we can just play Utter Devastation, and so let's see how that angles out, right? So we're gonna add Aatrox. We can equip something with the Darkened Bloodletters. We still have the opportunity to hook with Kayn. And then we can just like annihilate his board, right? Say, LOL, that was fun. Eclipse Dragon rolls through. Okay. He's got to be. Get it lined up. We've been angling this guy since turn 1. The A-Soul. All right, we can deal with A-Soul. Trying to think of how we want to go about this. Like, does the... Okay, well, he has the Challenger on Eclipse Dragon, so we're going to play the Utter Devastation. The Spell Shield is going to be annoying, right, with the Aurelion Soul getting to soak this hit, but... We got like a really strong attack on this upcoming turn. We're not at lethal, right? We've got 14. We can just add a bunch of dudes to the board. Okay. Live dangerously. The thing I'm kind of thinking of here is like he gets the card draw fine, but it's very easy for this opposing Dragon's deck to only be able to play one unit this turn. And we're definitely getting 2 units on board this turn with these Shadow Fiends. And so I think we're going to have at least a decent opportunity in that space. Let's see what else he adds. We can Shadow Step down this little dragon and then replay Kayn. He goes big. We got a tool to go big as well. Let's just go ahead and let that combat start. Make sure he gets out there. Did we just fuck this up? Oh no, Kayn's gonna come back because he's quick attack. We needed to play that combat trick first though. Little whoopsies. They'll be okay though. Ye will surrender the darkened weapon. That's the way we want to do it. Here, let's check this math real quick. Is that lethal? It's gonna be. Okay. It's gonna be. We can even do stuff here as well, like we didn't have to play that. We could have waited on him to block, and then we could have Deathbringer swept our Aatrox into his Wounded White Flame. That would have done it as well. A little sloppy, not our greatest achievement in gameplay today, but enough to unlock victories either way. Rip. Hi, GG. Give me those trophies. Help us make our way to that second bye for the upcoming Open. GG, my friends. And so, again, we could pull this up, talk about it a little bit more. Again, this is a fairly, I would say kind of like baseline lineup in the sense that if you're wanting to follow that same kind of strategy from the previous the previous Open to where you just ban Janna and then you're good enough against all the mid-range decks, this is fine, right? This doesn't have, I should say it has, the thing I don't like running lineups like this is, I don't know if there's a term for it, but it's what I call like the X, right? As to where, say opponent brings like Janna, they bring LeBlanc, Ashe, and then they bring something else, and then we ban the Janna and leaves 2 of our decks up, right? Say it leaves Aatrox, Kayn, and Jax Ornn up. Like Jax Ornn is fine against Ashe LeBlanc. It's kind of a coin flip, but Ashe LeBlanc does annihilate Aatrox, Kayn. And then if you want to kind of like flip the matchups around, their other match may get annihilated by Aatrox, Kayn, but it has a fairly even matchup against Jax Ornn. And you run into these spots to where if like you lose the wrong game, then it feels kind of like impossible to actually win the match. I don't know how entirely that makes sense, but it's what a lineup like this actually worries me about, is to where you run into spots to where it has the opportunities for not a whole bunch of unfavorable matchups, but it's like you really need to coin flip to get the good ones, and if you don't win the good ones, then you're kind of hurting really bad. And so it's not one of those lineups to where every match is like a 53% favorite. Is kind of probably the best way to look at it. You can find a lot of those to where what the way I typically kind of look for a lineup is I find the thing I don't want to deal with and just ban. So say like in this case Janna, and then you try to devise it in a way to where your next kind of most expected deck tends to be a good matchup, and then everything else is kind of in that window of like 45% to 55% win rates. And so it may not be a good match, but it's winnable. It may not be a great matchup, but you're, a little bit favored. And it's not anything to where you have like Ashe LeBlanc or you have Shen Jarvan in your deck, in your lineup, to where, they're 75% favorites against some decks, 25% underdogs against other decks. And so it's kind of tough in that space. But nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.